Today we are going to be working with the Heartwarming Hug suite of products. Today we are going to be decorating a carrier and a coffee cup. I have a template and I will link all the measurements and the PDF to this template in my blog post, and you'll find that in the description box below. If you didn't want to do the template, you could always take the cup, cut the top off and the bottom off, and just cut it apart and trace it. But I wouldn't want to sacrifice one of the cups if I didn't need to. So I simply laid my template down on my designer series paper, and I traced around it with a black Sharpie. You don't need to worry about the black lines because we are going to be cutting those away. When you do lay your pattern on here, I just want to mention that I'm trying this the first time on stripes, but you want to definitely try to keep things up and down. This is going to curve and as it goes around the cup. So if you try to lay your pattern a different way on your paper, you might end up with a pattern going how you don't want it to. So you just kind of have to be mindful about that. We're going to use our big scissors. Usually I like snips, but for this I want to use my big blade so that I don't have as many cuts up and down. We're going to follow the same rules though, and we're going to move our paper and not our scissors. One thing is nice, this is designer series paper, so it's not super thick or difficult to cut through. And these templates are very generous, so you may have to do one and then see if you need to cut a little bit off the bottom, but it's not really a problem to do that after you have it on your cup. You kind of want to take a quick scan around this just to make sure that you have the black off of this side if this is the side that you would like to use. I have just a hair's amount. I should have traced it on the other side, but I wanted to see the stripes. And then that's a fun pattern too. You do not need to cover your coffee cup. We have dies that will make the wraps, but I think it's cute to cover them. I just think it's fun and makes it a little bit happy. I brought in my silicone craft sheet. Mine is looking kind of rough. It's very sparkly. I've been doing lots of sparkly projects. And I like to use the tear and tape. You want to use a heavy adhesive, like you could use your Seal Plus. You could use, I wouldn't use the regular seal, but the Seal Plus would be good. And you can also use liquid glue. And sometimes I just like to use a combination. It just kind of depends on my mood. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to try a different method than what I used before. And I'm going to put a little bit on both sides here. And that will be the side that we lay down first. I'm also going to put some on this end as well. I just wanted to see if it held any differently. Than in my other projects. So let's bring in our coffee cup, and I like to start or have the seam meet up at the seam. And I'm going to take this backing off of the opposite side. I'm not going to press this right down on that seam just yet. I found that if I kind of take it and get it started in the middle first, I have a little bit better of luck. It doesn't need to be up and down perfectly on that seam, but that's just where we want it to meet. And my stripes might not be perfectly straight. I've noticed that. But I think that going around a round object, that's just going to be a little bit difficult. Okay. I like the way this works better than I had done it before. So let's just go ahead and remove our backing on this side and on this side. This is just being extra sticky today, but I guess that's a good thing. And then we just keep going and press that right into that other piece. And those two pieces of tear and tape are going to really adhere that nice and strong to that cup. Now, it's doubtful that anybody's probably going to actually put a beverage in this if you give it to them, but they might. It's perfectly food safe. You can do that. So, as you'll see, there is just a little bit of an overage. That's why I say you may just have to play with your template a few times. You want to print it out on cardstock. I just used some office cardstock, but if you have Whisper White thick, that would also make a great template. You don't want to use something flimsy and then have it moving everywhere or folding up on you. But there, that just takes care of that extra very handily. Now, part of the magic that happens with this set is in the dies. I just have a piece here. Like I say, I always keep these 4 by 5 1/4 sheets cut and on the ready. And so the wraps, the portion like you would hold your hand on when you go to that famous coffee store, that's what these make. And you need 2 per cup. There are 4 little dies then that you can use. Well, there are 2 sets of 4, I should say. And you can use those to create a pattern on your wrap. And you can just push them. I don't have my embossing machine over here. It is across the room. But this is how you would lay it out to cut it. And if you have trouble figuring out which piece goes where, it's very hard to see. I'm sure you can't see it on camera, but both dies on this part here have an asterisk, and so those match up, and these have hashtags, and so those match up. They don't emboss, though, that pattern. At least my eyes couldn't see it if it did that when you cut these out, but it helps you to put them together properly. So those would go into the machine just like that. And we're going to slide these over here. Next, I have a piece of real red, and we are going to take these little scallops, for lack of a better word. I'm not sure what exactly they're called, but they're going to go on the top and the bottom of these pieces. So I will run these through once, and then I'm going to need to run them through again because you need a total of 4. This particular circle die, it's kind of hard to see, but it does have like a little dot dash pattern to it. And I am going to use that for the top of my cup. And since we're heading to the die cutting machine, we're going to bring in a few images. Let's bring in our real red stamp pad. And we are going to use this, I'm not sure if that's a hexagon, I guess. I don't know. I didn't count my points on that or what shape exactly that is. But we're going to stamp that image. I'm also going to bring in my memento. I just think for these little delicate images, it just kind of sets them off. We are going to put our little coffee mug right there. In our case today, it is going to be a hot chocolate mug. And then we are going to use this stamp. It has a little design in it. And we are going to just bring it right over here and stamp that. Isn't that cute? Stampin' Up! Really thinks of all the little details that make our projects so special. I'm going to close these ink pads, and I'm going to bring in our Pear Pizzazz. And I have this one that just says "For You." So cute. Then we will also stamp our Eat, Drink, and Be Cozy in that Pear Pizzazz as well. And that is all of the stamping that we need to do on our project. You have some options here where it comes to cutting out these two images. This will fit your 1.5 inch circle punch. I would suggest not using that. It depends on what you want. I am going to use it though for my Eat, Drink, and Be Cozy. And so that is ready to go. And then these are the dies. This one for this image. Here's one for our little coffee mug. I'm not going to worry about getting it super lined up because I have to carry it over to my machine. But this one is different in the fact that it doesn't just cut out the outer ring. This one is also going to cut out this inside portion. And I kind of like that for the design that we're going to be going with today. But you don't have to do that. That is a good option. If you don't have the dies and you just want to cut out the circle, you can use your 1.5 inch circle punch, or if you do have some circle dies, you can use those as well. Okay, back from the die cutting machine, and see those holes? It just makes great details. There's stitching in those scallops. You just want to make sure you're working on the right side. I wouldn't rip it apart if you made a mistake, but I do think you'll be happier if you take the time to make sure you get it in the right place. Okay, when I use my glue, I find it's best to put this strip of glue right above those film strip kind of dots. And this is the longer side. And I'm going to bring it down here right to the top of the stitching on both sides. And there's just not a lot of extra room for that glue. You don't want to go too heavy with it. But that's just kind of where it needs to go if you're using these cutouts. And there's another design, and I think it cuts out to more of like a coffee bean kind of pattern, but I haven't tried that one yet because I have been working with hot cocoa. And then the same on this lower side. And we're just going to do the same thing over here. Making sure our right sides are going to be facing upward. You would be very sad to lose those nice details. But see, now I got a little messy with that glue. This is why we have this silicone craft sheet. It is pretty indestructible. And you just take it to the sink and wash it off. You could even throw it in the top rack of your dishwasher. But it saves your work surface. And then we're going to do the same thing here. I just like to work with mine facing me. I feel like I can see better. And I love the Pear Pizzazz Real Red combination. I just feel like I never give Pear Pizzazz enough love. I'm going to let the glue dry on these pieces just for a few minutes. This is where I kind of like to use a little combination of both the liquid glue and our tearing tape. I want to put some liquid adhesive right here. And again, like I say, you could use Seal Plus as well. And you could actually use your tearing tape on both sides of this. I just kind of like that little wiggle factor to be able to get it to line up. I'm going to turn this around so I get out of my glue mess. And I am going to take just a couple strips of tearing tape. And you probably don't even need to do this. I just feel better. And we're not even going to take the release paper off of it, but we're just going to take that across that seam. So we have adhesive going this way and we have adhesive going this way. Okay, see now it is just butted up against. I don't think that I would want to hop this over here. I think it would make it too thick. You can always adjust where your band falls on your cup. This is paper, and we need to kind of break the fiber a little bit on it to make that go around our cup even better. And see, even with that liquid glue, that just hopped up a little bit. Glad that happened. Technical difficulties happen to everyone if you're a crafter. And I'm just going to put that right over top of there. So that will take care of that. I just want to do a little rough estimate here of how, and if it's real wet, you would want to wait till you do that, but I think mine's okay. We're going to put this seam at the front of our cup. And see, you can adjust if it's gapping or whatever, you can make it go further down or further up on your cup. So I like the way that is. And this is just how I did mine. You could certainly just liquid glue things. I was just afraid it might get too messy. So I am going to put some tearing tape here. I'm going to give it a nice rub. You could actually use your bone folder for that, but finger will work too. And it's okay if you have this excess, you can just bend that around. And then we want to just take these and bring those together. Now, I did take, and just in this center portion, I just put a very light, not heavy at all, layer of glue just right on the center green portion, just because I don't want them to slide off of my cup, but it's not enough to make a mess on the way up. You can run your hand around there just to be sure. But that is how that works. Now let's build the front. Bring our little shape in here. And we're just simply going to put some liquid glue around there, some liquid adhesive. And we're going to place that right there. It's just an added layer of dimension and pattern and color. It's just a visual added layer of interest. So you kind of want to figure out how you want yours to be. And I would like the center of this to be around my cup. So again, to get it to stick well and not be fighting it, we just need to take it and just a few little bends around your fingers or your bone folder should do the trick. Because we're going to put it on like that. So I'm putting that center towards me. I like the mini dimensionals for this part. And I'm just going to put 4, 2 on each side. And you may want to keep some hand sanitizer close to you if you find that your hands are getting adhesive on them or just sticky in general from all the different elements that we're working with. That hand sanitizer might not remove it, but it will knock that stick out. And then we're going to remove these. If you want to put a little bit of glue on those, you could do that as well. I usually do, but for these I am not. Because you would have to just sit here and hold it. If I find that they start to loosen, then I will go back in and do that. I'll put my bone folder there so that that doesn't roll out of view. This little element just makes me smile. I think it turns out so cute. Our little coffee mug. And we're just going to put one dimensional right in the middle. So cute. I just love how that turns out. I am putting, these are about 20 Hershey's Kisses here in this cup. And then we have our lid that's going to go on the top. And we're going to build our other little design for the top. And I did this one out of Designer Series paper. You could either pop this up on a few dimensionals or use liquid glue. I do better centering it with liquid glue, so that was my choice. But I am going to attach it with dimensionals. I think that if somebody wanted to pull that off later and use the cup, then they could do so. The stripes actually are aligning with my sentiment. And then this just kind of pops right in that general area. And you can decorate these in all different kinds of ways, and I will show you that here in a little bit. Let's bring in our caddy. Not sure we'll need this. I'm going to move that out of the way. Both the caddies and the coffee cups come in packages of 8. And so if you wanted to do a cup on each side, you would need 2 packs of cups and 1 package of the carriers. It is probably hard to see that I have these 2 strips of paper and I have scored them. And I'm actually having the hardest time deciding which I want. I think I'm going to change my mind and go with the red. But these are scored. You would not need to score these. This is just Designer Series paper, so it is pretty thin. However, if you use our regular cardstock, I think that you would be happiest if you scored it. You could use 4 separate pieces of paper. I just chose to do this. I thought it would be probably faster and easier to manage my paper that way. I like to do mine when it is assembled. So we'll just fold at the score lines here. And put that back that way. Kind of twist this. Then the way all of Stampin' Up's boxes are made is this flap with the notch out of it. You need to fold that in first. Then your sides, and then the part with the tab. And then you can come over here and just kind of reinforce these creases, make them nice and crisp, and flatten out that bottom. I think it will work better for you as well. This is our host code for November. I'm actually going to move this out of the way just so that this handle doesn't keep moving that. If your order is more than $150, do not use that host code. You just don't use it, and then you will get the host rewards for your purchase. That's $150 of product total. That's before your shipping and taxes. I am going to take this, and it doesn't require a lot of glue because this craft paper kind of really, it does adhere well. It grabs that glue pretty well. I just kind of go around it and make a square. And you have to do it in 2 sections because our paper's only 12 inches long. Now, if you were using a 6x6 paper, you just have to figure out how much. The width would be the same, but you would just have to figure the circumference a little bit differently. So I take that piece and put that on first and get that all happy. Then I take this longer strip and we're going to do the same thing there. And I just kind of like to take this part first. It does overlap just a little bit. And I allowed for a little bit. I like a little bit of that craft paper peeking out. I think it, especially this paper, is more of a homey type feel to it. And so that's just the way I chose to do mine. You could certainly adjust the measurements that I use to how you want to do it. And just, you could just even take your bone folder and give this a nice clean, and you just don't want to goop that glue on because it will ooze out. And it could kind of buckle and warp your paper, and we don't want that to happen. So isn't that just sweet how that works? Love that. Okay, to decorate the top of this mug, or this cup, I should say, it's not really a mug. Let's just bring in our glue dots. And I've made a bow out of this Mossy Meadow ribbon that comes in this suite of products. It is just so nice to work with. It's just pretty, and it goes with a lot of different things. I don't like ribbons that I generally have to fight with, and this is not one of those. So isn't that just super cute? And then, of course, you just need to trim your ends. And this is easy because you can just go right along that pattern, and I think you would want to. And then you can simply put your hot cocoa, a couple packages. I think some candy canes would tucked in there. And then on this cup, I didn't put anything extra on the top. I just took some of our red braided trim and tied around the whole entire cup and just used different patterns of paper. I decided that I wanted to add a little bit more to our carrier, so I simply added a tag to the front. I added some of those pieces, some extra DSP. I used a punch and created this tag on the front. And these are the little stars that are in that suite of products, and they're really sparkly and just add a nice little touch. And then I just put the 2 cups in there. But I thought they turned out really super cute. This one I did because I thought, well, after Christmas is just still very much hot cocoa season. And I know it's kind of hard to see this, but we've decorated this with, this is the, maybe if I turn it this way, this is the Misty Moonlight ribbon. And then I made a tag with one of our tag topper punches. I put our Swiss Miss in here, and I put a cello bag with marshmallows in it, and I took the Celebration label dies and made our tag topper, and I just fussy cut out this sentiment from the set that says, "You're the marshmallows to my cocoa." You could put a little to from on here. Maybe somebody isn't feeling well. Maybe this stupid virus has someone just down a little bit, and you could kind of ding-dong ditch someone and leave them a little treat. And then this one, I just did these in just general winter colors, and I thought that it was super pretty as well. And this is Seaside Spray, even though that isn't in, this is our Snowflake Splendor paper, or it's in that suite of products. And then there are, with the Heartwarming Hugs, there are some embossing folders, and I used that on this as well. But I just thought that those were super, super fun. And it was just a great way to show someone a little kindness during the holidays or the winter months. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.